Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with our series on Aristotle's Poetics. In this video, we're going to be looking at Aristotle's mediums of art. So, before beginning, it's important to note that Aristotle's word techne is often translated as art, though the term skill or craft might be more apt. In Poetics, he concerns himself with the arts or the skills and crafts of imitation, which generally map more onto what we would conceive of as art. So it's important to note when Aristotle says something like art imitates life, he's talking broadly about skills and crafts of people. Whereas in his Poetics, he's talking about a specific type of techne, the art of mimesis, what we would usually talk about as art. Just getting that out there. So, in Aristotle's time, strict distinctions between literature, history, and philosophy had not yet been made. You just kind of had writing. And sometimes that writing had the purpose of telling a story, and sometimes that story was true or not, and sometimes that writing had the purpose of persuading someone, and sometimes it was trying to do all three. Therefore, before he could begin to explain the right way to craft a tragedy, he needed to distinguish tragedy from other forms of imitation, both within language in terms of literature, history, and philosophy, but also within terms of art writ large, of distinguishing it from visual art, music, dance, all of these other things. He needed a formal way to do this, and Aristotle is often credited as being the first one to really line out, at least in the written records that we have, a formal way of distinguishing different types of art. Something that seems very intuitive to us, but in his time was something that was new and revolutionary. To do so, he looks at three ways in which works can differ: their medium, their object, and their manner. In this video and the next two videos, we will cover each of these three in turn: the medium, the object, and the manner of imitation. This video is going to focus on the first and the simplest, the medium of imitation. So, Aristotle begins his Poetics with a distinction between visual representations, painting, sculptures, etc., and the art of poetry, writ large, music, dance, and literature, which imitates human actions as well as emotion. Remembering from the last one on mimesis that Aristotle thought imitation can be conceived of broadly as not just imitating something physically out there in the world, but can also imitate in some way the feelings that someone feels when they hear a piece of music, watch a dance, or watch a play. Poetry includes three mediums that can be combined in different ways: rhythm, harmony, and language. A musical piece might contain both rhythm and harmony. A dance might contain only rhythm. The main focus here for Aristotle, though, is on language, though he acknowledges that plays often contain certain levels of music and harmony and rhythm in different ways. His focus is on the language. It's on the story that is told. Within language, Aristotle makes a distinction between verse and prose. He notes that not all things constructed in verse or prose may constitute poetry, such as philosophy or history may be set to verse. But this is due to the object that they imitate and how they portray it, not the medium that they use. So, philosophy and history are not distinguished from poetry by their medium, because they all use the same medium of language. They're distinguished by other things, such as the object, i.e. the way that they show off people, and the method that they use, though different versions of philosophy may use certain different methods or kind of manners of portrayal. So, but poetry is distinguished from things like sculpture or painting or music or dance by their medium, by the medium that they use, in that poetry uses the medium of language. Some of Aristotle's distinctions have stood the test of time. We generally consider visual and performing arts to be separate classes of art. However, he puts the skill of delivery, or the actual performance of a text or a piece of music, in an entirely different category from the writing or creation of that piece. This disagrees, at least to a certain extent, with the modern notion that we might place composition in the same general field as musical performance. You would find someone that is learning how to write music probably in the same school as someone that's learning how to play music, and playwriting in the same general field as acting or directing. Though clearly those distinctions exist, it's really just a level of hierarchy of which comes first. For Aristotle, the idea of delivery was very separate from the idea of what is the story that you're telling. Next up, we're going to look at comedy versus tragedy. This is the second of Aristotle's distinctions, and it's going to look at the object. What is imitated? Is it people as they are, people better than they are, or people worse than they are? Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.